Here you can choose which epilogue to play. Note you can only play one, and then the game will end. Enjoy. Yeah. Ooh, Baxter. This is cool. Baxter's coming up. That's neat. But we're here all about Derek. I mean, let's be real here. Alright. This is it. I'm so excited. Derek. In between. Here we go. Yeah, I mean, all of this looked good. Yeah, everything is pretty much the same. Not much changed. Yeah. Done. My feelings for Cove. Direct, indifferent. Begin step 4 at direct indifference. Yes. Cove customization. Personality. We're gonna say he's studious. My feelings for Derek. How about appearance? Oh man, yeah, I mean, Cove looking like that is just fine by me. And personality, studious. Yeah, that's fine. My feelings for Derek. Love. Direct love. Yes. Nice. Direct love. Ready. It's interesting that you can change it too. But no, we're all in, baby. Not relaxed or nervous. Totally direct love for this man. Begin step 4 at direct love. What is Derek's initiative for step 4? Low initiative, middle initiative, high initiative. I think this means like how proactive he is when it comes to interacting with me, especially romantically. So I'm going to say high initiative. And so your days growing up in the loving cradle of Sunset Bird came to an end. In the years that passed since graduation, you moved out of your childhood home and made your own way in the world. You lived alone, lived with a pet, lived with pets. I'll say live with a pet, why not? Live with a pet. And you worked at a fine company, had a business of your own, had multiple ways of earning income, were still focused on pursuing education. Oh, I like all of these options. You worked at a fine company in the music industry, art industry, fashion industry, writing industry, TV and movie industry, sporting industry, gaming industry, hospitality industry, health industry, education field, STEM field. Why is there nothing here about like being an engineer, computer programming? Whatever. Music, art, fashion, writing, TV, sporting, STEM, education, health, hospitality, engineering. There's got to be like engineering, gaming industry. Your family members went through the same kind of leaps into independence. Liz and Lee both eventually earned degrees and started fantastic careers in new towns. But your mom's and Cove's father still moved on the same street as they had for all those years before. It was comforting to you that there were some things that remained in the old neighborhood. And despite the ever-changing reality of your adult life, your friends were still your friends, though of course, things weren't exactly the same for them either. Very recently, Terry publicly came out as a man and switched the spelling of his name to use a Y instead of an I. Good for you, Terry. He also confessed his love for Miranda, which she excitedly reciprocated. They moved in together recently in the city, out past Sunset Bird. One person who did disappear into the shuffle of memories inside your mind was Baxter. After his vacation in Sunset Bird one year, he was just gone. That was a loss you felt. He had become someone you considered a friend during those days. And then there's what became of the sad little boy you grew up with, Cove. Oh, and then there's what became the sad little boy you grew up with, Cove Holden. I mean, if you could call it grew up with. Your relationship, or lack thereof, remained consistent. It was your connected families who kept you informed on of each other's business. Generally, the two of you didn't speak directly since moving away from the street that had held you nearby for so long. And strangely, the two of you still lived pretty close by. Understandably, you and Cove lived in locations far from each other. Yeah. Understandably, you and Cove lived in locations far from each other. He truly thrived in his continued efforts of cultivating a loving and supportive relationship with his family and friends. His personality had changed, or rather he had allowed himself to express even more sides of himself. Cove was a polite, engaging, considerate man who took the lessons he'd learned over the years to treat the people around him with patience and understanding. When Cove eventually developed a picture of the future he wanted to have as an adult, it made perfect sense to you based on his interests. He went to college to study marine biology. Good on you, Cove. I'm super proud of you. His ultimate goal was set on becoming a natural resources technician, and he still volunteered with Orca when his workload allowed it. Cove got a 2-year degree. After that, he began working full-time at Orca, helping educate the people on ocean conservation and participating in shore restoration efforts. As an adult, Cove also was able to recognize and have diagnosed that he was on the autism spectrum. It was something that hadn't been noticed by his doctors as a child, but he was still the same Cove as he always was to you, and he was just as glad to understand himself better. Good for you, Cove. Growth and change came for the Suarez family as well. Mr. Suarez continued to run the scuba shop with Mr. Holden, but that was about the only constant that remained. They moved to a new condo in Prism Vista City. As the 3 boys got older and the nest began to empty, I am also looking forward to seeing George and Nicholas all grown up. The baby of the family, Nicholas, was eventually the only one left at home. George went off to a local college, staying in the dorms. Then there was the eldest son, Derek Suarez. He left the area years ago to attend an out-of-state college with me. Out-of-state college with me, maybe? On a sports scholarship. You kept in touch with him during those days as you had in the past. Derek had since graduated. You were sure he would have success in whatever he pursued. The long-term direction of his career going forward was ambiguous to you, but there was still news Derek had been able to share. Well, I did push him towards soccer, so it would be cool if they were able to honor that. He was returning to the city where he grew up in, and as always, Derek had a plan. It's the bus stop. This brings back memories. The foggy and scratched glass door of the bus swung open with a gasp of air, allowing you and the rest of the passengers to disembark at your destination. You stepped from the massive vehicle into the Prism Vista City bus station. Crowds of travelers bustled across the concrete floors. A constant stream of strangers came from hallways, shuttles, and other buses. The station was absolutely packed. It was vacation season. Summer had only just begun, but the Californian heat was already immense. You'd be lucky if even a single day of your much-anticipated trip was under 90 degrees. Arriving was still a great relief. Steaming in the humid bus station, not the only thing that's steaming hot, I'm sure. Steaming in the humid bus station was definitely preferable to baking inside of the metal walls of the bus itself. It was a fairly short ride over, but still, you'd had plenty of that already on the long ride there, and you had already had to take a plane too. The bus was simply the last leg of the trip. I don't like the idea of me being that far away from Derek, so it was a fairly short ride over, but still. You didn't take your own car because it would have been more inconvenient. It was too far for you to have been driven. There was no way around the bus ride. You didn't own a car and you could drive places. You didn't take your own car because it would have been even more inconvenient. You'd been spending your time with Derek. He had his own car. You'd be spending your time with Derek. He had his own car. Going in 2 vehicles would make getting around harder, especially in a heavy traffic-heavy city. It was best to save your car the miles. Plus, I would love, the more I can hang out with Derek by being in the same vehicle with him, the better. One of your sweaty hands kept a slippery grip on the handle of your rolling suitcase. It was a well-worn piece, frayed at the edges, with an annoying loose wheel on the left side that dared you to keep keeping it moving in a straight line. That's my suitcase right now, actually. It's been warped. You'd had it since you moved out of your mom's house, and now it was returning with you, at least to the general area, since you wouldn't be staying in Sunset Bird. Your accommodations were in the city. All you had to do was inform your old friend Derek you were ready to be picked up. And so, in your other hand was your unlocked phone with the contact screen up. You selected Derek's name, saw the last thought he had sent you, and texted him a quick message. Good luck on your trip. Let me know when to come by. I'll be ready for you. Hey, I'm here. I have arrived. Guess who survived the trip? Here. Derek, I'm in town now. You scooted closer to a wall, positioning yourself out of the path, but in a place that was still easily visible. It took only a minute to get situated, and your phone was already buzzing with a response. Coming! You cracked a smile at the screen of your cell, and a brief message that lit up. Then you put it away. He'd be there soon. There wasn't much else to do besides watch the tide of people go by and think. Recollections of how you ended up in that spot came to mind. The two of you had consistently kept in touch. He knew what was happening with you, and you with him. For the past months, the catch-up calls and texts you had with Derek included updates on his process of moving. he decided to head back to the city, at least temporarily, to help his dad with his business and work some things out for himself for his own future career prospects. Derek kept you in the loop with his house hunting, logistics, the victories, and the setbacks in making a major life transition. It all came together less than a month ago. The Suarez family was naturally thrilled to have him there. George already lived near, only 40 minutes away, and Nicholas was still at home, so the whole team could be together again. It would be cool to reunite with them. The biggest brother was just happy to return to his own stomping grounds after all the years of being away. But it wasn't a familiar locale for only him. Sunset Bird was the next town over. He knew that. Derek's deep voice played inside your head. The animated way he spoke through the phone a few weeks ago was fresh in your memory. He talked about how he'd made it to his new apartment with an extra room and that you should totally come to stay for a while. You'd be able to visit with his brothers and parents. But that all in due time. And your own parents in your childhood neighborhood, and you'd get to see him too. And you'd get to see him too. Finding a hotel in the area was always the biggest problem of coming back home. You had to appreciate the unique opportunity Derek had provided. Though, even if he had lived on the opposite end of the country, you would have tried to make it. He meant more to you than just a couch you could crash on. Seeing Derek was your main priority for the trip. You both worked it out so you could be there. And after your visit, he was planning on letting the other good pal from his youth, come by for a stay too, your former neighbor Cove. But you got to be Derek's first guest. Yeah, I'm like, okay, Cove's there too. Okay, Derek! You were looking forward to the trip as much as you knew Derek was. It was going to be an amazing time, you were certain. The whole thing was nerve-wracking, but you didn't want to miss the chance. It had been a long time since you'd been together in person. You wondered what he'd think. It'd been a long time since you'd been together in person. You worried what he'd think. You'd change over the years, but you hoped you and Derek would stay close. You were looking forward to the trip as much as you knew Derek was. You could already imagine his bright face grinning at you. Those idle thoughts led to idly checking the time on your phone. It had only been about 5 minutes since you sent the text. You put your phone away yet again. It was the grand tradition of being in a bus station, waiting somewhere, checking the time, then looking around. You went back to the third step. Throughout the spacious area there were plenty of other travelers repeating the exact same process as you. Other than the people filling the space, the scene was virtually unchanged since the first time you'd seen it. You could easily recall the exact day that was Father's Day when you were 13. Derek had been so thoughtful, inviting you to go over to his house so you wouldn't feel lonely for the holiday. He didn't make you go through any of it on your own. It wouldn't be much longer until he was by your side again. Just thinking about it lightened your spirits. And then, over the murmur of a bustling crowd, an echoing beat pounded through the air. It was the sound of rapid footsteps against the solid station floor. Pushing off from the wall, you scanned the crowd for the source. It didn't take an I Spy champion to notice the man in a bright, sleeveless sweatshirt. Hubba, sprinting towards the bus landing area like he was about to miss the last ride of the day. But he didn't have a map, bags, or a ticket in hand. He wasn't there to go anywhere else. He had somebody to see. And that was you. Derek had made it. Oh, Derek. There he is. That's my boo. He neared the drop-off spot while swiveling his head. When his gaze fell on you over to the side, his mad dash abruptly came to a stop. Derek was a solid rock in the middle of a slow-moving river of unfamiliar faces. He'd grown so much. Puberty was super good to him. A sparkling grin broke through the stillness. That part of him hadn't changed. 10 years older, but with just as much boyish charm as ever. Aww. Wow. It's a good thing we put in that 10-year contract, that 10-year backup plan. Smart, Derek, smart. You walked over to meet him. You ran towards him. You rushed to Eric and jumped into his arms. You were rooted in place. You stayed out of the way and waited. Now, of course, I want to get hugged by those very, very strong arms. Look at them guns. Look at them guns. You rushed at Derek and jumped into his arms. With your suitcase rattling behind you, you pushed through the crowd. Derek turned on his heels to change the trajectory of his path. He took bounding strides to close the rest of the distance between you and him. The moment you were upon each other, you abandoned the bag and leapt at Derek.
Oh.
Nice. He caught and held you with the expertise of someone who had years of practice with a clingy little brother. Though the way he pressed snugly against you wasn't at all the same kind of embrace he would give to Nicholas. You hugged him back tightly, taking in his physical presence. There's a lot of physical presence there, for the first time in ages. It was a wonderful start to the reunion. Then you set your feet safely back onto the ground.
It's been a while, huh?
Sup, Hark? It's been a while, huh? With the man himself right in front of you, it was possible to appraise him fully. As you had to do from the beginning, you looked down to see Derek's face. Despite still perhaps surpassing him in height, it was clear he'd grown a lot. I mean, he's still shorter than me? I find that hard to believe. Even then, I do find short guys very attractive. I have a lot of friends that happen to be a little below the average in terms of men's height, especially American men's height, and no, they were hot. Like, I was crushing on them really hard. Hi, I've missed you. It's been too long. Derek's back, you joked. I have to do this. Derek's back, you joked. Yeah, I am. It's good to see you, guy. Derek watched you so gently, his words couldn't ring anything but true. Setting his eyes on you is something he was grateful he could do. And hearing him call you by that long-time moniker really brought it home that you were, well, home. The feeling's mutual. Ready? Nice. You ready to go? Got all your stuff? Yeah, it's only the suitcase. Which way are we going? That way. Derek rubbed the back of his head as his immense cheer chipped away just a bit. Do you mind having to take a stroll? I didn't bring the car. My place is about a 15-minute walk from here, and parking is wild. I would have had to park 20 minutes away just to find something outside of the apartment's reserved spot. That's one thing about this place I didn't miss. He let out an airy chuckle, still awkwardly scratching at his hair. So we're gonna have to get in some steps. That's alright, it's not your fault. What a pain, it's so hot out. But it's getting hot in here. What a pain in the A, it's so hot out. Ugh, this is why I took a business instead of driving. This is why I took the bus instead of driving. Honestly, it'll be nice to move around with the bus ride. You made an okay sign with your fingers. Honestly, it'll be nice to move around after that bus ride. I get that. But, You press a finger to the tip of your chin, thinking, you got here way sooner than 15 minutes. It was barely more than 5. Yeah. He attempted to shrug casually, but a smirk tugged at his mouth. It's 15 if you walk. It goes quicker if you run. Had to come to me all hot and sweaty? Nice, Derek. Especially when you're a fast runner. Like if you're a trained athlete, for example. He's just like flexing. I don't mind this at all. Like, he's flexing, and I like that. Derek jumped in place to spread his feet apart, and strike a superhero pose like he was still a 13-year-old. So he's 23 now? I think he's 23. Thanks for going to the trouble. Wow, what a hunk. You didn't have to do that. I hope you didn't push yourself. That sounds like you. You blushed wordlessly. Wow, what a hunk. He fed off your praise and lifted his head even higher. Totally right? Once again, completely carefree, Derek tilted his head over the way he came. Let's go. You reached down to collect your suitcase, only to grasp empty air. You glanced towards the ground just in time to see it rolling away, securely in Derek's hand. I can carry it, Derek. Thank you for your help. Hey, get back here with that, you joked. Hey, wait, you just sprint in here. You don't make yourself carry the bag, too. A gentleman as always. He'll say, wait, you sprinted here. Don't make yourself carry the bag, too.
No problem.
I'm not making myself do it. I want to do it. You took his free hand. You grabbed the corner of the suitcase handle. You stepped up beside him. I'll take his free hand. Derek had his plan, and you had your own. You maneuvered to the side and slipped your hand around his. Oh. For an instant, he flinched at the touch, but you held firm and he eased into it. I see how it is. I'm pulling the bag, but you're pulling me. Yep. I can never beat you. You and Derek left the station side by side and made your way through the vast city. He pointed out a towering building against the skyline in the distance. It was sparkling and new and had to be at least 10 floors. That's where you were going. Having such an obvious landmark to work towards was convenient. You weren't familiar with that part of the city. The condo where the Suarez family used to live was further away from the station. It was certainly very different from Sunset Bird. You easily knew every corner of the town and could go from end to end on foot. But you continued along, certain that you would make it to your destination. Derek's pace wasn't too fast or too slow. He was conscious of the connection between you and wasn't going to jerk you around. Derek chattered lightheartedly as your thoughts were drifting along. It felt completely natural being there with him. He didn't struggle to let you into his world. There was a place he left open and waiting for you. Oh, that's so... That was good writing. I like that. Derek Suarez. His name rang in your ears. Over the years, you cherished him even more until you couldn't imagine life without him. The moment you saw him again, you had been hit with realization. You loved him. The moment you saw him again, you had been hit with the realization. You loved him. So does this imply that I loved him the whole time, but here, like, I only realized it just now? I'm gonna say this. Over the years, you cherished him even more, until you couldn't imagine life without him. Despite how long it had been, and despite all the time you had to spend apart, your feelings never wavered. You were in love with him. Yeah, that feels right. The jaunt through the city breezed by. There was so much to catch up on. Even though you didn't sprint, the 15-minute walk still felt much closer to 5. When you arrived at the ground floor of the skyscraper Derek lived in, he showed you right up. At his front door, Derek fished a key from his sweatshorts. He swung the key on a silver loop around his fingers and joked about his near disaster from earlier that day. He'd run straight out of his house once you texted, and he'd already hit the button for the elevator when you realized his apartment was left unlocked. Derek had to bolt back down the hall as the elevator arrived, lock the door, and make it back to the other end before the elevator closed, but he'd made it. I mean, that's happened to me before. You quipped that being on such a high floor really came in handy. The elevator had a longer way to go and gave him more time. Derek nodded with a laugh. Oh, Derek's got a nice apartment. I approve. Look at you, Derek, adulting like a boss. Welcome to my house. Derek's apartment was a modern, but still cozy space, and completely spotless. I trust that. I can see Derek being a total clean freak. A balcony wrapped around 2 walls of the abode. That's nice, actually. Through the crystal clear floor-to-ceiling windows, you could see the ocean. What do you think? It's looking good already, huh? Mm-hmm. Good looking. Looking real good, Derek. Too bad I didn't put any of it together. It came furnished. None of this is yours? Nah. I didn't have a lot of important stuff in my old place. Nothing worth bringing all the way over. And who knows how long I'm going to be here. Getting new things didn't sound like a great idea. We'll see what happens long term. I might stay longer than I think. Still, at least for now, a prefab apartment it is. It's wonderful. There's a real lack of footballs and soccer balls here. This is a smart way to handle it. You're lucky to live here. You're not alone. There's a real lack of footballs and soccer balls in here. You haven't seen my room yet. Ooh. Are you inviting me into your room, Derek? Touché. Derek cast his gaze over the room like he was meeting a friend. It had made a good impression on you, and that had him standing proud. But he cut himself off and focused attention back on his actual guest. You can have my spare key while you're here, and I'll show you your room so you can put this away before we get distracted. That was said while Derek lifted up the suitcase he insisted on carrying. You mean so you can put it away? I'm not the one holding it, remember? Right, I've got it. You were led towards the narrow hall at the side of the apartment and stopped right at the first floor in the path. You arrived already. Derek opened the room for you, holding the door until you passed through. You entered your temporary bedroom. He followed you inside, still tugging the suitcase behind him. The furniture style was a perfect match of the living area. It was easy to see that it had come as a full set. Derek set the bag up against the corner of the bed to keep it out of the way.
Oh, man.
Man, it's incredible that you're here, especially now. George and Nico are both on summer vacation. Does that mean I'm gonna see them at all? It's okay. It's okay. I'll live. They're super looking forward to see you. Can you believe they're gonna be juniors next year? Oh, I am gonna see them. Never mind. They're around. They're in summer vacation as in they're here. Okay. Sorry. Completely missed that. It's okay. Either way, as long as I get my Derek time. George for college and Nico for high school, obviously. He spoke. Wow, Nico's in high school. Oof. He spoke with an infectious, affectionate enthusiasm. We used to babysit them, and now they're practically scholars. Not to mention the fact that George outgrew me. I bet in a couple more years, Nicholas will too. So much for being the big brother. It was a blow to Derek, but he took it to on the chin and snorted in good humor. You'll always be their big brother, no matter how tall they get. George might have more height, but there's no way he beats you in muscle size. I can't wait to see them. They're still little babies in my mind. You stick along him. George might have more height, but there's no way he beats you in muscle size. Yeah, that's totally true. It was a ponderous thing, hearing about other people getting older and progressing in life. Little George and Nicholas had grown up so much, but the same number of years had passed for you, and you were older than them. You were an adult with a full-time job and a place of your own. You achieved more than you'd hoped for. You were doing just as well as you aspired to do. Things were going alright so far, and ideally kept getting better. It had been tough and you didn't feel like you'd really accomplished much. Your life was just such a mess as far as you were concerned. You didn't know how it felt. I think I achieved more than you had hoped for. Yeah. You had really matured and embraced adulthood, but you still felt like you were a teenager there rather than a real adult. I mean, part of me always is a kid at heart, but you still felt like you were a teenager rather than a real adult. You weren't sure you could ever reach a point where you saw yourself as completely grown. A pause had formed before you realized it. You blinked and brought your mind back to the present. Derek offered an understanding smile and then spoke to give a different type of offer. Want to see the rest of the apartment? I'll give you the tour. Yeah, that'd be great. You casually went through the still open bedroom door and Derek shut it behind you. The grand tour of the Derek Suarez locale was started immediately. You got to see the scenic guest bathroom with all the amenities, and he showed off the vast end of the hall with a closed door. Anything could have been beyond that point. Your helpful guide informed you it was his bedroom. I'm sure I'll see that soon enough. Isn't it crazy, having the master bedroom at the end of the hall? Sometimes I still look down there and think that's gotta be my mom and dad's room. You're moving up in the world. You and Derek strolled back into the main section to explore the dining area and the kitchen. He described the treasures hidden inside each cupboard, and you even got to check inside the fridge. It was difficult to pretend the contents were part of some tourist adventure. The contents were part of some tourist adventure experience, just like when they went to grocery shopping. The only things there, spread out sparsely among the shelves, were water bottles, colorful sports drinks, a jug of 2% milk, a box of salad greens, and a few containers of some kind of packed meals. That all makes perfect sense. I am not surprised by any of those. Derek awkwardly cleared his throat, feeling as if he needed to explain the sight in front of you. I don't have much in stock right now. I usually eat at my parents' place or get takeout. I'm on vacation, sort of. A working vacation? But I should change that, especially now that there's somebody else here. He swung his arm to the side to close the fridge, but yanked it back a crack before it shut. The bottles in the door clattered. Oh, do you need water or anything to drink? I've at least got that. I'll take a water bottle. I'll have one of those sports drinks. Glass of milk, I'm alright. I'll have one of those sports drinks. I got you. Derek snuck his arms through the opening and pulled out a chilled, bright blue sports drink. That's the one I would have picked. He closed the fridge for real and straightened out his stance. You accepted the bottle from his hand. The sightseeing moved back into the living room from there. His fun tidbits were about which switch turned on which light and how to turn on the fan. And because I'm sure it's gonna get hot in here really fast. And here's the last stop. With a flourish, he pulled open the sliding door that led out to the balcony. Cool. Could we stay inside? Thanks for getting the door. Derek, I don't really like heights, sorry. Nah. I smelled with interest. Mild interest. You step back. Cool. Derek gestured once more to the wide open door. After you. You were losing track of how many doors he'd opened for you already, but you walked through the latest one into the sizzling summer air. Oh. Look at that view. Look at that view. And the balcony's great too, of course. The view is even more breathtaking than you've realized from the living room. You could see for miles the sea, the sprawling city, and the rolling hills beyond that. Neither of you spoke for a moment. Derek moved past you and leaned against the railing. He stared out into the vast world ahead of him. You rested against it too, right next to Derek. You rested against it too, a little ways from Derek's spot. You went to stand next to him. You stayed back from the edge. I will say you rested against it too, right next to Derek. He didn't flinch. Derek welcomed your presence with ease. This was the part I was the most into about the apartment. Whatever place I got, I knew it had to have a balcony. Even a small one would have been fine, but this one is amazing. Feeling settled, you sipped at the refreshing sports drink Derek had given you. He pinched his shoulders up and sent a grin your way. So that's it, the whole place. Unless you actually wanted to see inside my room. Yes. The suggestion was given with a coy brow raised and a little laugh.